when it's a black person, I can always tell what kind of black person. I can always tell what they are.
Whoa, wait, what does that mean, DL?
Saquon Barkley, he had a girlfriend that threw around the N-word a lot and said she wasn't a gold digger and she wasn't messing with no broke N-words. He looks like that kind of guy that is indifferent to what black people go through. It's just true. And I think I've noticed that to be consistent with a lot of black people who show up. They have a shoe booty affect to it.
Oh my God.
There we go. All right, so let's take a look at what Stephen A. Smith had to say. Cuzzo, shout out to Cuzzo in the building. Let's listen to what Stephen A. Smith had to say on this situation between President Trump, DL Hughley, and Saquon Barkley. What are y'all thoughts? Before we even get into the video, y'all let me know if you were on the Eagles team. I don't know if the staff goes as well, but if you were part of the Eagles organization and you were invited to go see President Trump after winning the Super Bowl, I want you to answer one of two questions. One, would you go? Or you could answer both if you want. Do you have a problem with people going? And Shai said, I wasn't sure. That's why I sent it. Nah, I figured. Shai, when I first read it, I was like, I'm not so sure about this. So I'm glad that you did send it. But let's take a look at this. Vaughn said, Merch, stay away from the ratchet Johns. Stay away from the ratchet Johns. Vaughn, you said you like Jasmine Crockett. All right, let's take a look at this. Let's take a look at this video.
The Philadelphia Eagles went to the White House on Monday to celebrate their Super Bowl victory with President Donald Trump. The trip is a time-honored trip that most teams make upon winning a championship. However, not everyone with the team or organization makes the trip for whatever reason. As for the Philadelphia Eagles, not everyone made the trip, including Super Bowl MVP Jalen Hurts. Others not in attendance included wide receivers A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith, linebackers Zach Bond, defensive ends Brandon Graham and Josh Sweat, and defensive tackle Jalen Carter. Running back Saquon Barkley did attend the ceremony, and President Trump had this to say about the Eagles' star running back. Take a listen.
And by the way, I have to tell you something. I was with the Giants and the head coach and some people, and I said, do anything you have to, but don't lose Saquon. They lost Saquon. That was not good. I called that one. That was an easy one to call because he played damn well for the Giants. I can tell you that.
Saquon's appearance didn't sit well with comedian and talk show host DL Hughley. Take a listen to what DL had to say about Barkley and other black people who visit the White House in general, particularly the Trump White House.
14 players said, I'm going to boycott this. Whose side are you on?
I think that it's not just political. What Donald Trump has done and is doing to black history is unsavory and is undeniable. Donald Trump is deliberately trying to erase black people's history for whatever quest. He's elevating Christopher Columbus again. So he deliberately is doing things to black people that isn't just political. And any black man that does it is going to obviously catch some level of heat. When a black person does it, when it's a black person, I can always tell what kind of black person. I can always tell what they are.
Whoa, wait, what does that mean, DL?
Saquon Barkley, he had a girlfriend that threw around the N-word a lot and said she wasn't a gold digger and she wasn't messing with no broke N-words. He looks like that kind of guy that is indifferent to what black people go through. It's just true. And I think I've noticed that to be consistent with a lot of black people who show up. They have a shoe booty affect to them.
Here's what.
Hold up. All right, I got to give my response, man. Hold up. Stephen A., give me a sec. What do y'all think? Should he not have gone? Now, I feel like there's a lot of issues being conflated there where he mentioned, DL mentioned something about his girlfriend using the M word. DL also said something else. I want to go back to something that DL said because I feel like I can't really recall
when it's a black.
Hold on. Yeah. What I wanted to talk about is what he said with Trump. Now, I have heard this. Shame on me. I'm going to look it up after this show. I have heard that Donald Trump was removing certain things from the African American History Museum. I did hear that. I definitely heard that. I went down to the African American Museum. So I don't know what is being removed. I don't know what's not being removed. And at first, when I initially heard it, I was sitting here wondering, like, well, how can Donald Trump remove something from a museum? Like, if I have a museum, how can Donald Trump come into the museum and just move it? Matter of fact, let me ask that question. Is the African American National Museum run by the government or funded by the government? Let me write that. Funded by the government. Maybe this is going to go back to the point that Slim Thug was making earlier. It says, yes, the National Museum of African American History and Culture in Washington, D.C. is partially funded by the U.S. federal government. Here's the breakdown. Federal funding is roughly half of the museum's construction cost. They put in about $270 million as part of the Smithsonian Institution. The museum also receives annual federal support for operations, staffing, and maintenance. Private donations is the other way. The other half of its funding came from private donors, including individuals, corporations, and foundations, major contributors like Oprah Winfrey, Robert Smith, and companies like Walmart and Boeing. If somebody puts up the bread, they run stuff. If somebody puts up the bread, they run stuff. It's as simple as that. If I give 50% and funding on a consistent basis to something, I'm going to have an influence on that. It just is what it is. At least I'm going to have the option to have an influence on it. If I can decide not to do anything, but I can decide to do it. So my recommendation would be have a private museum. Why should the government have to fund? Like, there's enough successful Black folk out here, enough successful Americans out here that would put up money to have this museum. So I got to look into what's being taken out, and I just don't know about it. But that's something that I definitely want to, that I think is interesting. And then to D.L. Hughley's point about Christopher Columbus, this is something that I have seen Trump say that it rubbed me the wrong way. It rubbed me the wrong way. Donald Trump is getting ready to bring back, or already has brought back Christopher Columbus Day. How do y'all feel about that? As somebody that believes that my family, at least a big part, but I think that my family overall did not come over on slave ships and was already here in America. You know, everybody can believe whatever they believe regarding your family. Cool. As somebody that believes that my family was already over here, that knows that my family was already over here, Donald Trump is getting ready to celebrate Christopher Columbus, the mass murderer, the guy that came here, raped, pillaged, or at least led the charge on it. I don't even know if Christopher Columbus actually ever stepped foot in America. I'll be totally honest. I don't think he ever stepped foot in the United States of America. I think he was more down south, but it doesn't matter. In the Americas, let's just use that. Came here, committed genocide, raped women here, did all these terrible things that I don't think any leader would be able to stand on doing right now. And Donald Trump is getting ready to celebrate that man. I remember when we were looking at some property in Delaware, maybe like 2017, maybe 2018. And it may have been Columbus weekend. No, I don't think it was Columbus weekend. Biden changed it to Indigenous Peoples Day. So Biden changed it to Indigenous Peoples Day. Trump wants to bring it back to Christopher Columbus. And when I went down to Delaware, I remember seeing a statue of Christopher Columbus in like their downtown area. And I was like, damn. It just hit me in the chest. I'm like, yo, they really celebrating Christopher Columbus out here? It didn't make sense then. And to a certain point, it doesn't make sense now. Now, the only reason why I say it to a certain point is it's actually what happened. Whether we like it or not, Christopher Columbus is an American hero. I don't respect him. I don't like him. There's nothing good that I ever want to say about Christopher Columbus.
Ew. Sorry to interrupt the video. We got a new challenge. 20,000 by the end of April. We fell short in March, but we're going to get our goal this month. Thank you all in advance for those that are going to continue to like, subscribe, maybe even leave some comments and let us know how we're doing. And on that note, let me let y'all get back to the video and I'll see y'all soon. Ew.
But looking at history, he's an American hero. I don't like that Trump's doing this. I think it's insensitive. I think it's ignorant in a lot of ways. And I think it's hurtful to a whole bunch of people. Those are my thoughts on it. Just sharing it with y'all. I'm telling you, I didn't really put any thought into it before because I didn't really watch this DL Hughley video. So when I just heard him talking about this, I'm like, damn, that's right. I did hear something like that. But him bringing back Christopher Columbus, and then we wonder why. Hold on. Let me actually use this as an opportunity to bring up another video, because when I played this video before, a couple people said something like, I hope this young kid has faith, or there were a few things that were said regarding this young kid. Let me see if I can find this video. A lot of you all may know what video I'm getting ready to pull up, but just give me a second. I was not planning on playing this video that I'm getting ready to play, but I think it's very appropriate. Hold on. Let me see if I can find this video. One second. And the video, I guess I'll talk you guys through it, was of that young man. Hold on. I don't know if this is going to work. Hold on. It's showing me the videos all out of order. Give me a second. But this is the video that I'm looking for, is the young man that was speaking on being ready to take blood, and that being the only way for people to be vindicated or whatever else people were looking for. Let me try to find this video. If I can't find this, I'm going to be upset. Hold on one second. I think I'm getting close. Y'all know. Oh, I think it's been deleted. Wait, no, that's not that one. All right, well, I'll just explain it then. Oh, I found it. Hold up. I found it. So a lot of people couldn't understand
screaming and crying,
that young man, and were appalled by the things that he was saying. And I said on the show, I said, well, actually, I may not have been to the same point that this young man was at, but I definitely understood where he was at maybe about 10 years ago and would have agreed 100% with what this young man is saying 10 years ago. So I want to play this video again. I'm going to catch up with some of your comments as I'm playing this video again. And I think with Trump bringing about this Christopher Columbus situation, it's no reason. I mean, it's no wonder in my mind why young men would think exactly how this young man thinks. But do people who will call out this young man, will you also call out Donald Trump for what he's pushing? I don't know.
one way black people achieve true liberation, that's by taking it in blood. There has to be blood all over the floor. There has to be bodies on the floor. There has to be people screaming and crying. That is the reality. And this is what history shows me. No amount of begging, no amount of complaining, no amount of protesting, nada is going to get you your liberation until you take it with blood. You see? So this is why I sit back and I don't play along with any of these black people talking about it's a spiritual war, this, that, because when those cops are going into our neighborhoods and shooting our babies, that's a physical thing. You see, y'all so worried about the spiritual world, but you're not worrying about the world that's right in your face.
So a lot of people may be turned off by what he's saying. But is he wrong? I know we live in the comforts of America to where we can act as if this country wasn't created the way that it actually was. the way that Europeans came over here and what happened with Europeans and what they did, the genocide. Sorry, I'm getting a call. The genocides that were committed across the continent. I know we don't like to call out those things, but this seems to be like a reoccurring theme. The same thing happens between Israel and Palestine right now. It just is what it is. Yo, somebody just knocked on my door as soon as I said it. Nah, that was just me. Clown y'all. All right. The same thing happens with Israel and Palestine. Now, what do I mean by that? We'll sit here and talk about what happened recently to justify which side that we're on, right? I'll just be totally frank with y'all. We'll sit here and talk about October 7th and what the Palestinians did to the Israelis, and that justifies everything that's going on right now, this genocide that's being committed, just me being totally honest. And as far as my opinion, I'm entitled to my opinion. But we will never look at, oh, well, actually, let's take it back 60 years earlier, 70 years earlier. What happened with the Palestinians who were living on their land, who were forced out? We're not going to get into that conversation. But I'm just using it to show this situation, which is we don't like to necessarily go back in history when it's something that's embarrassing to us that we have to be held accountable for, or something that we don't feel like addressing. We'd rather just try to sweep things under the rug and let's say we'll just set everything that has ever happened between Israel and Palestine from this date moving forward. Everything that has ever happened between Russia and Ukraine from this day moving forward. Everything that has ever happened in America from this day moving forward. Nah. Everything has been conquered in blood, right? America was created in blood. The Haitian Revolution was done in blood. The Civil War, the bloodiest war in American history, right? As far as Americans, I don't know if it still is, but I remember hearing that. Don't quote me on that. So what are we talking about? So my only question is, because you may be wondering, like, well, where is he going with all this? My only question is, don't sit here and just have a certain energy towards this young man right here. Because when I initially played that video last week, I know I saw a few comments, and I know people that were watching it that just didn't comment felt the same way. Like, damn, how can this young man think like that? Like, we're in a bad place right now. Well, yeah, call out the same energy when it comes to Christopher Columbus. When you give Christopher Columbus a statue, the same way that I say if you draft Shador Sanders in the first round and give him a big bag of money, you're condoning his behavior. You're saying, oh yeah, we're celebrating your behavior. We're condoning it. So therefore, we're not going to be surprised if you take on that behavior when you're a part of this team. And if you impact other people to take on that very same behavior, because if we're saying it's good for you and okay for you and condoning it with you, then that means we're condoning it for the rest of the team. So I got to be honest when it comes to Trump on this situation. Now I'm going to go on, talk about his first 100 days and a few. Wasn't initially anticipating spending this much time on this issue. I don't even know we were still talking about DL Hughley, right? And Saquon, we didn't even finish that. So we're going to eventually have to get back to that. But the point that I'm trying to make is that how are we surprised by all this? When you celebrate a mass murderer and somebody that committed genocide, the people that he committed genocide against, the people that still feel that they're oppressed in this country, what do you expect them to do? All right, let me catch up with some of these comments. Let me see some of these comments. Honest Road, didn't he end up getting what he deserved? End up doing Christopher Columbus at the end? I'm not sure what ended up happening to Christopher Columbus at the end. Honest Road, a quick search online shows that his first voyage landed in the Bahamas. I know that's hard to say, nephew. Which one? Probably something that I said about Trump. It is what it is. I gotta call. I have to call out Trump on the stuff that he does that I dislike. I voted for him, right? So I gotta hold myself accountable to that. That's what a lot of people don't do. A lot of people will say, "Well, I just voted for Joe Biden and Kamala Harris because of my Social Security." No, what you voted for was Joe Biden. That may have been the reason why you decided to give your support, but what you voted and supported was everything else that comes along with what they do. So I got to hold myself to that same standard, right? And I have absolutely no problem with that. No problem with that. All right. Rather go see the people he deported and support them. How many millions of people died as a result of the history of Christopher Columbus and those that sailed after him in the voyage that ended up bringing people to the American shore? That's a fact. He's kind of making a point. How did they take power? In blood. It's just a fact. When we watch all these different TV shows, what's the one? Shogun. When you hear about Alexander the Great, when you hear about the Roman Empire, when I watch movies like King Arthur, when I watch movies like Troy, how do we think these countries were conquered? When you do research on what the Arab slave trade is, you ever wonder why so many Africans are Muslims? Go look at what the African slave trade did and how vicious it was. That was in blood. Honestly, nephew, I think at one time, every black child in America, male or female, probably feels that way. Unfortunately, the guidance that we could be giving them is not guidance at all. That's an interesting point, Unc. That's an interesting point, Unc. And I want to stick here. I'll be totally honest with y'all. See, I call out black people specifically for having certain views and making everything about race for one reason, because I don't think that it benefits us. I don't think it works. I used to be that person, and I did it more passionately and more open than anybody in my group, anybody in my friend group, anybody in my network. I was the one standing on blackness and pushing for black people more than when everybody was scared to do it. I was the one doing it. I was the one doing it in Canada on the football sideline, showing my Black Lives Matter, doing it however I could. I was the one doing that, standing on Instagram, people asking around, yo, is Dak losing it? I was that person. But I continued to do research and I realized, like, yo, this isn't working. We need to try a different strategy if we are truly looking to be successful. Do you want to be right or do you want to win? Those two things don't always align with each other. So like I said, the reason why I call stuff out when it comes to the black community getting finessed by Democrats, finessed by all these liberals, finessed by Black Lives Matter, finessed by George Soros, finessed by all these different things, and getting caught up in racializing stuff like Carmelo Anthony versus Austin Metcalf. The reason why I call this stuff out is because they have us manipulated and bamboozled, in my opinion. However, to my white brethren, are y'all calling out the same stuff? We all want to call out the cultural issues that we couldn't stand, the LGBTQ stuff that they were pushing, the tampons in boys' bathrooms, the drag queens in schools. Oh, Dad, I think you text me. My dad just texted me. I think my mom's going to the store. Dad, tell Mom you want some Greek yogurt. But it almost made me lose my train of thought. I saw my dad texting. Usually my dad's texting me something important about the show. All right, I got a little yeah, so to my white brethren, we call out the cultural issues that we have and saying now, no, this impacts us. This is dividing our country. All these Democrats that want to play this race war and divide us, it's hurting us. I'm asking my white brethren, are y'all also calling out this type of energy? When it comes to Donald Trump celebrating Christopher Columbus, do you care? Are you aware? What's the energy there? Because when I look around the country or when I look around the world, I'm being totally honest, it seems like certain people's lives don't matter the same way as others. I know we were screaming all lives matter when I was one of the people standing on, nah, we're not doing that all lives matter. It's Black Lives Matter because those are the ones that are suffering the most right now. A lot of people were screaming all lives matter, but when you look around the world, it doesn't seem that way. It doesn't seem that way. Let me keep going. Anthony's row, you play so much, I really thought someone knocked. Oh, I got to catch up. My fault, I'm behind. All right. Golda Meir, how to Palestinian passport. Originally, look it up, hunks. Break that down for me. I'm not thinking about that. Let's be for real. Black people couldn't come together enough to do anything. Facts. If Trump removed items from the museum, I'm curious of what he removed and why. Could it be that items were put in there to help false sentiments that are politically motivated? It could be. It could be. Honest, it could be. Definitely could be. But notice what you said. This is a prime point that I'm making. I want to make an example. I got to make an example. If Trump removed items from the museum, I'm curious of what he removed and why. Could it be that items were put in there to help fuel false sentiments that are politically motivated? Well, wouldn't that be kind of just like celebrating Christopher Columbus as a hero? Because I know you, Honest, and I know one of the things that you hate the most is our country being divided. So that's my question. Do you have that same energy when it comes to Donald Trump celebrating Christopher Columbus and the division that would lead to, and celebrating a man that I believe does not have the moral standard and moral compass and principles that you live by yourself? That's all I'm asking. Now, the things that he said, now, I think he said something about, the reason why I didn't say this earlier is because I just didn't look into it as much. But I think he was saying that things were removed that were, I don't know, because I don't know. To be totally honest, when I went to the museum, I forget, you could ask my parents. After I left the museum, there were certain things where I just was a little bit like, I just, when I left the museum, I didn't get to, you need like 2-3 days to honestly go through the entire museum. But when I left it, I was just kind of like, like y'all give the athletes more space and the celebrities more space than, you know, like the actual history. Like I was turned off by them, to be totally honest. But I didn't even want to comment that because I don't know what Trump's removing. And I didn't want to sit here and act like, oh, well, I'm making an excuse for him. Nah, let's see what he's removing. But when it comes to certain things, if you're removing that, why do you have a problem with people removing Christopher Columbus statues and removing Christopher Columbus as a holiday? All right. But two things can be true and still misguided with the third. I like that. Christopher Columbus, Vons ain't feeling it. Now, Dak, see the light, Vons. This is what you don't understand. This is the difference between you and I. You will celebrate anything that a Democrat does. I have absolutely no problem. These people are not my gods, bro. I don't watch The View, or I'm not guided by people that watch The View all day, and then everything that Trump does is bad. Trump bad, Republican bad, Democrats good. I don't have that slave mentality to where I'm just a part of this Democratic plantation to where I have to agree with everything that they do. I don't agree with what anybody does. I don't agree with the thoughts that I had a year ago, 2 years ago, 3 years ago. But that's the difference between you and I. I can be objective. I can call out BS even if it's somebody that I supported. You've been on this page endorsing bad behavior, no different than a lot of people are endorsing the bad behavior of Shador, and what it ended up costing him was $40 to $50 million because people are too scared to be critical of the people that they like. I'm not that guy. Never been. You should know that. Who was Golda Meir in the Israeli government? Originally, Gold in my air had a Palestinian passport. I'm not sure of the exact dates, but I've actually seen copies. I'm going to be totally honest. I don't know what you got to break that down for me. I'm not familiar. I'm not familiar. But if it's something that we should look into, I'm definitely with that. Agreed. Vons wrote, Black History Museum is DC. Black History Museum in DC is real. Nothing fake about that. Y'all see what I mean? Sometimes you just don't even got to say anything. All right. We are one nation under the nigga. Yo, stop, bro. Stop. Here go Bez. Here go Bez. Then put his real name and everything. He's ready to troll. Hey, yo. Oh, my God. Got me talking crazy. Well, let's not talk about the truth then, because what is all of this conversation about him supporting white people from South Africa? I'm just saying, I don't know what you're referring to. I don't know what I've never heard of Golda I don't know what that's about, so I can't respond to it. I don't know. That's all I'm saying. I think you should know by now. I have no problem talking about anything, but you got to give me some more information, or maybe send a video, and we'll respond. We'll react to it. Facts. Have that same energy, Bonds. You have that same energy. All right. All of DC's museums are awesome. Typically teach a lot of different things from our past. I definitely call out bad behavior on all sides. We cannot blindly follow anyone without question. That's a fact. Black History Museum is the best one. Would you expect anything else from Bonds? It's called progressive thought. Some people do not have it. You're right, nephew. It's like common sense. It is not a dime a dozen. Bez here. I rock that part. Google Golda Meir. You gotta. I'm gonna Google it. Everybody Google it, but we gotta Google it after the show. We can't just. If you gotta send a video though. If you send the video, we could react to it during the show. Vaughn's laughing. Never heard of it, but definitely gonna look it up. So yes, everybody, let's look it up. Maybe we can talk about it on Monday. How's that? We'll talk about it on Monday. All right, let's finish up this video and then we'll get back to Stephen A. Smith. But I'm not letting off. If you got a problem with this young man saying the things that he says, then you also got to understand the things that contribute to this young man saying the things that he's saying and having the mindset that he has. So we got to call out all bad behavior.
When we're getting thrown in prison, that's a physical thing, right? Address the physical. You see, this is why I say don't hit my phone until y'all ready to do what y'all know we got to do. When y'all ready to go outside and hunt them white boys, hunt them cops, go to that white boy's neighborhood and fuck his shit up. When y'all ready to do what y'all know we got to do, hit me. But until then, I'm not playing around with y'all, because it's all of these excuses for why we don't want to do it. Why? Many of us are scared. You know what I mean? Many of us are complacent in our oppression. You know, many of us don't want to burn the relationships we have with white people, all of these things. So I'm going to sit back and do my thing. When y'all ready to go outside and take blood, hit me anytime. But you see, a lot of us are not ready to do that. But I'm trying to tell y'all, there is no freedom. There is no liberation for our people until there's blood on that floor, on that battlefield. And that's the truth we don't want to admit.
Can anybody dispute what he's saying? We may not like what he's saying. But can anybody dispute what he's saying? Show me a nation that got their liberation a different way. Please enlighten me, educate me, inform me. I would love to know, because I would love to see what their strategy was. I don't condone what he's saying. I think it's sad. I don't think he's wrong. I don't think he's lying, but I just don't condone it, because I think that violence begets more violence. I don't think I'm looking for peace. But when I look at it across the board and you look at what has happened in the history, I mean, this is, I'll be totally honest. I think that black people in America have had the fight beaten out of us to the point where, I'll be totally honest, it always bothered me that we were able to be enslaved for that long. It bothered me. It still bothers me. The fact that we were able to be enslaved that long. Look, you never know what you're going to do in these type of situations. But I'm telling y'all, let me preface it with, you never know what you're going to do in these type of situations. But I'm telling y'all right now, they would have had to kill me. They would have had to kill me. And if I was a slave, then I'm trying to kill as many of them as possible as I can before I go. And I probably wouldn't have cared who it was. If you are enslaving me and I got a Nat Turner this thing, and I'm over here this is why bad behavior has to be nipped in the bud by people that are not in the situation. Because when you're involved in a situation and somebody's enslaving you and or oppressing you or doing whatever, and the only way out where you got to kill some people that may be considered civilians, considered whatever, that's what's going to happen. We're seeing it right now between Israel and Palestine. We're seeing it in a lot of other areas around the world, but we are seeing it the most in between Israel and Palestine. People will justify killing kids, killing women, killing civilians if it means getting rid of a particular threat. They will kill innocent people to get rid of the threat of the quote unquote terrorist. Well, I'm pretty sure if I was a black person growing up during slavery, that we would consider those slave owners and anybody condoning slavery terrorists. I don't like playing games with all this stuff. We play games, we pick and choose whose side we're on. This is why I've gotten to the point where I'm just like, I just want peace. I don't care. I'm not taking a side between Israel and Palestine. I want peace. So when I see where most of the killings are happening on Israeli killing Palestinians, that's the energy that I have towards Israel. Y'all got to stop this. It's wrong. Y'all are wrong. It's good. It's too much. Yes, you should be able to defend yourself, but by what means? Because I'm pretty sure that a lot of people watching this that support Israel defending themselves cringed up listening to this black man say it. And you may be sitting here saying, but wait, what has America done to black people to make this young black man feel that way? Well, I just told you earlier in the show that I believe that my family was here in America. We didn't come over. Everybody didn't come over here on no transatlantic slave trade. Stop believing everything that we just read in the school books. Do some research on your own. You think that Christopher Columbus was the first guy to be able to come over to America and Africans couldn't come over? You think that Europeans are just that far superior in intelligence to Africans that we couldn't come over here and do trade for a very long time before Christopher Columbus came over here? There were black people here. There were the quote unquote natives, not the Mongolians that came across the Bering Strait, not the fake Pocahontas Native Americans that we all try to say the Mexican looking ones. Let's just be real. Those may have been some of the Native American populations, but they didn't all look like that. Just read Christopher Columbus's book. He wrote it down. So to the point that I was making with people who may think like, well, what did America do to black people to make this young man feel that? Well, apparently you're able to make a claim to land from thousands of years ago. So you telling me I can't make a claim to land from 400, 500 years ago? Maybe less? There's always a way to justify killing other people. There's always a way to justify killing other people. And that is why I say I just want peace. There just has to be peace. I don't like war. There's always a reason to justify it. And all it's going to do is get people to a point that want peace to eventually just say, you know what? The only option is war. And the more people you get embracing that mindset, the quicker this world is going to destroy itself or God will send it up in flames. Who knows? Who knows? All right, let's move on. Man, I'm so late on all this stuff. Let me see if I can catch up with all these. I'm going to play the Stephen A. Smith. Get back to the Stephen A. Smith. And we'll finish that up and then keep it moving. and then keep it moving. I see a lot of folk dropped out.
Savory, and it's undeniable. Donald Trump is deliberately trying to erase black people's history for whatever quest. He's elevating Christopher Columbus again. So he deliberately is doing things to black people that isn't just political. And any black man that does it is going to obviously catch some level of heat. When a black person does it, I can when it's a black person, I can always tell what kind of black person. I can always tell what they are.
Whoa, wait, what does that mean, Dio?
Saquon Barkley, he had a girlfriend and threw around the N-word a lot and said she wasn't a gold digger and she wasn't messing with no broke N-words. He looks like that kind of guy that is indifferent to what black people go through. It's just true. And I think I've noticed that to be consistent.
Hold on. I got to address Steve's comment. Steve, I got to address this one. So Steve wrote, I think the enemy we choose to fight needs to be properly identified. The people in the neighborhood across town isn't our enemy. Steve, do you have that same energy when it comes to Israel and Palestine? If you do you voice it? What do you think? So now I guess it's different because Israel's being strategic. Not saying that you're saying this, Steve, but I hear a lot of people when they speak on Israel, well, they're being strategic. They're letting people know, they're dropping pamphlets. Things need to be strategic. What I'm telling you, Steve, is that things have never been strategic when it comes to certain levels of oppression, let's say, or for black people in America. I mean, would you say that they were strategic? It seems that I'm just being from an observer. It seems that we're quicker to tell Palestinians that they need to be strategic than we are to say that Israel needs to be strategic. It seems that we pick and choose who needs to be strategic in certain situations. But we don't understand that you get to a point where when you look around, I mean, should Haitians have been strategic when they were trying to get their freedom? Should Nat Turner have been strategic? I'm just asking. It just seems like we pick and choose. Yes, you're right. Steve, let me say this. Yes, you are right. Like I said, I don't agree with what he's saying. But when I look around at the history and what's currently happening and who's in power and how they got in power, I don't see a lot of strategy of saving this group of civilians and saving this group. I don't see that. So do we keep the same energy? That would be my question. Do we keep the same energy? Let me kind of go through these a little bit because I don't want to keep interrupting that other video. Hold on. Let me see a couple of these. Honest wrote, only the good Lord can cure our societal fears and frustrations. I pray for those living in fear and those living with a hateful heart. Peace can survive. Hate destroys. Media needs to be turned off. All I'm saying is keep the energy consistent. Keep the energy consistent. That's all I'm saying. That's all I'm saying.
With a lot of black people.
And this is why, I'll be totally honest. This is why when I have conversations with certain people, see, Vons, whenever I have a conversation with Vons, I'm going to look like a conservative. It is what it is. I accept that. Vons has no idea the type of conversations that I have with other people where they're thinking that I'm more liberal or just more maybe down with the blackity blacks. It depends on who I'm talking to. Because I don't just align with everything that this group says. I don't align with everything that that group says. I don't align with everything that the Bible says, everything that Christians say. I don't align with everything that Jewish people say, Muslims say. I don't move like that. I'm my own man. I can communicate with God just myself. And if I can't communicate, if God's busy at the time, then I'll call my parents. I don't need to just go along and worship everything that Donald Trump says or anything that Joe Biden says and the Democratic Party says. I don't move like that. Let's keep going.
But they have a shoe booty affect to them.
Here's what Saquon Barkley posted on X to critics of his appearance at the White House. Quote, laugh out loud. Some people are really upset because I played golf and flew to the White House with the president. Maybe I just respect the office, not a hard concept to understand. Just golfed with Obama not too long ago and look forward to finishing my round with Trump. Now you get out my mentions with all this politics and have an amazing day, end quote, Saquon Barkley. Wouldn't have been as flippant as Saquon Barkley, but I understand his underlying point. Ladies and gentlemen, we've got to be bigger than that. I'm not here to insult or castigate D.L. Hughley in any way. I think that he's a sensational comedian who's made us laugh for many, many years, kings of comedy. And his D.L. Hughley show on ABC come to mind. He's done outstanding work throughout the years. He is smart, he is sharp, he is thoughtful, he is conscientious.
I got to stop the video 1 second. Joy says, let me not just bring up the hot comments. Let me bring up, Joy wrote, I just want to live my name. Joy to the world. Joy, I'm with you. See, this is the thing, Bonds. This is what I meant. And I'm glad that you wrote this comment. Trump and people don't care about Muslims and Hispanics and blacks. Bonds, the people that you vote for, Democrats. Why didn't you throw Democrats in there? Maybe you should also throw black people in there. See, I'm consistent across the board, bro. You can only see things through this blinded vision that you've grown up seeing stuff in this critical race theory perspective that everything happens because of race. White people bad, Republicans bad, Democrats good. Yeah, Democrats good. You can't call out both. Joe Biden and locked up. Joe Biden's responsible. That number that we looked at with 44% of black kids growing up in households and single parent homes compared to the average of 72%. And I didn't even get into the details of some of the other populations that it's 81% of Asian children live with both parents. When you look at the success rate and the household income, that chart that we always bring up, the top five highest household incomes were Asian American populations. Do we not draw the connection? That is stuff that we control on our own, Vons, nobody else. And when you look at the Democratic Party and what they're pushing, they're actually encouraging people to not want to get in relationships. They're encouraging, Black Lives Matter was trying to break up the patriarchal structure. We see what works in other communities and we make a left instead of going right. Instead of going the same way, oh, that works for them, that works for them, damn, that works for them too, that works for them too. Oh, no, we're going to do something different. Oh, we've never been successful doing it, but we're just going to do something different. It's more fun that way. Keep the energy the same. White people, 76.3% of white children live in two-parent households. Hispanic, 67.4% of Hispanic children live with both parents. Why are black people 44.6%? But you want to celebrate Joe Biden, the man that took more black fathers out of households than any other president perhaps in our history. But you're quick to call out Trump. Keep the energy the same, brother, or else they'll continue to finesse you. You'll continue to give them your support, and they will continue to do nothing for you. Let's keep going.
And I think overall, he's a good brother. He has been critical of me in the past. I do not care. He is entitled to his opinion, and we are entitled to disagree with what we have to disagree with. But in this particular instance, I think he has to be bigger than that. Saquon Barkley is a football player. The Philadelphia Eagles won the championship. Trump is somebody he's played golf with, just like former President Barack Obama is somebody he's played with. Everybody is not into politics the way somebody like a D.L. Hughley is. Everybody is not paying attention to every policy that's put out there, every executive order that's issued, or whatever the case may be. Everybody's not doing that. Some people go about the everyday rigmarole of their lives, and to them, ignorance is bliss. Not calling Saquon ignorant by any stretch of the imagination, but to some people, ignorance is bliss. They want to go about the business of doing their everyday job because they know they have no control over the apparatus and the system that's in place. You're not going to change it. So they're not trying to live their life with everything being a protest. That's their position. We might not like it, but in the same breath, they're entitled to do so. And they should be able to do so without us looking down on them. To get to D.L. Hughley's points directly, stigmatizing black folks, saying you know who they are, and using that example to describe Saquon Barkley. I'm not saying she's a gold digger, but she ain't messing with no broke. Really? That's what we're doing? Because why? What evidence do you have that that's how they think? I can give you a myriad of issues that affect people's thinking. Some people are about money, and they think money changes everything. Some people look at politicians as just speaking and running their mouths, okay? And really just, politicizing things and grandstanding. Some people look at politicians and they say, okay, you're willing to say one thing, but you're willing to work across the aisle and make things happen.
As I'm listening to this, it's just like, I just don't understand I don't understand the accountability that D.L. Hughley and Vons and a whole bunch of other people that think that way don't use any of that accountability when it comes to pointing the finger back at the people who they claim that they're fighting for, but don't place that accountability on the things that those people can do outside of anybody else's control. When we watched that D.L. Hughley, but they did that, remember that seminar that they did on BET? And it was, what's the guy's name? Oh man, this dude, the corny dude. I forget, the guy that jumped out the window talking about, well, who here doesn't believe that black women are going to save the planet? Kenny Burns jumping on there saying, who here doesn't think black women are going to save the planet? Where's the accountability, bro? You save the planet. We are the leaders as men. And you so busy meat rodding black women and trying to suck up to black women that you don't even realize that you're taking accountability off yourself. So when I hear D.L. Hughley criticizing Donald Trump for taking stuff out of the museum or criticizing Saquon Barkley for going to visit the White House, and D.L. Hughley wants to act like Donald Trump is the most racist president we've ever had, like what are you talking about? But then you're fighting for people to support Joe Biden and Kamala Harris. Your standards change when you're talking about the Democratic Party compared to the Republican Party. See, in my experience, good teams care more about what they do well and what they do wrong and want to improve on it. Bad teams focus on what other teams do and remove accountability on the things that they can improve on their own to give them the best chance to win. That's what I see what Von's doing, what D.L. Hughley does, what all of these people do. And now Von's going to sit here and say, I don't like Biden. Even worse. You still supported him. You still support Kamala Harris. You're still jumping on here supporting. This is the thing. People will separate like a Joe Biden from Kamala, from like a Jasmine Crockett, from all. You do realize that they're pushing a lot of the same things. And to be totally honest, Joe Biden is more moderate than all of them. The other ones are far more extreme, but who knows? I'm kind of over the Saquon situation. Once we talked about everything else, it's like, now we're going to talk about Saquon Barkley and the Eagles visiting Donald Trump. Bro, who cares? And this is coming from somebody that used to be pissed off when I was rocking with Colin Kaepernick, when I was not watching the NFL for about 4 or 5 years, maybe even longer than that, because I didn't like how they treated Colin Kaepernick. I may look at it differently, slightly differently now. Not really, but something in me kind of like, I feel like it's not the same as my energy that I was before, but I still don't like how they were treating him. But none of my friends, I remember a couple of my friends, they said they're boycotting. They couldn't even last through the first preseason game. But now everybody's so upset about Saquon Barkley. That's why I got to the point where it's like, yo, what can we do? What can we do to change things without asking other people to do it? So I don't know. Neither here nor there. Neither here nor there. Let's get into this. Let's listen to the first part of this. Let's keep the same energy. Listen to the first part of this Dr. Umar interview. Hold on. Let's listen to this Dr. Umar video, and then we'll lighten it up with a couple of videos after that. Let me bring up this Dr. Umar video. I should have had it queued up. Where is it? Shador. Is this it? Yeah, I think this is it. All right. Yeah, this is it.
Ew, it's Dak. Just want to thank you for checking out our video and visiting the OG Network. If you enjoyed the video, please make sure that you give us a like. And if you're looking to join a community of inspired individuals striving for purposeful abundance, subscribe. And if you're feeling real generous, share the video with some friends and family. All right, I'll see y'all soon. Ew.